With the US election just under a week away, Americans aren't the only ones keenly awaiting the outcome. Countries around the world will be watching nervously to see how they'll be impacted, particularly in areas like national security and global trade. While there is a perception of a huge gap between current President Donald Trump and election rival Joe Biden, let's look at some of the main issues that directly affect South Korea. We can easily see how several of Trump's signature policies so far have impacted Seoul. For instance, his trade war with China has put economic pressure on American allies like this country. Trump has also squeezed Seoul directly on military cost sharing. But then he has been the first incumbent US president to hold direct talks with a North Korean leader. Not once, but twice. It's not as if all of these foreign policy issues would suddenly get easier for Seoul if Biden wins. Like the Trump administration's push for a NATO-like alliance in Asia to counter Beijing, Biden has campaigned in favor of a united front of friends and partners to challenge China's abusive behavior. But analysts feel Biden would put even more of a burden on South Korea to choose sides, following the path of traditional diplomacy rather than Trump's unconventional approach. Let's also not forget that Biden was vice president when South Korea was left to face the brunt of China's economic retaliation over the decision to station America's THAAD anti-missile system on this peninsula, even if the fallout rolled over into 2017 when Trump took office. Where we would see a significant difference is with Biden expected to strengthen US ties with South Korea, which have been seriously strained by a rift over how much Seoul should be paying for its share of maintaining US forces Korea. As Trump has repeatedly complained that the US is getting a raw deal, the allies are yet to renew their military cost-sharing deal, which expired at the end of last year. Biden has claimed that Trump has alienated us from the very democratic allies we need most, and insisted that he would reinvest in treaty alliances. That sounds positive, but in addition to making it harder for Seoul to placate China, there's also the North Korea question. Biden's less likely to continue top-down diplomacy, having used words like murderous and brutal to describe North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, saying he'd meet him only if he agreed to draw down his nuclear capacity. As in the past, Pyongyang would likely return to its old tactics of open nuclear development and long-range missile tests, and that would likely ramp up efforts by South Korean President Moon to salvage something of his desired peace legacy, only placing Seoul at odds with Washington in such a scenario. And so we can see how there's no easy outcome for South Korea, whatever happens next week.